Hey guys, my name is River Yo, and today I'm going to tell you about my story of how I overcame food sensitivities. Today, everyone is sensitive to something, or if they aren't, they're probably in denial about it. And why is this? I was in denial about it for a long time until I was in college and I had really severe chronic fatigue, and I realized, you know what, it's probably got something to do with what I'm eating. So I started journaling on my phone what I would eat, just like a quick little note, and then how I would feel. And I started to see some correlations, and especially with breakfast, like when I was on an empty stomach and then I just ate one thing, how I would feel afterwards. And so I did this. The first thing I noticed was apples. I would roll out of bed in college, quick run to the cafeteria, just grab an apple and run out the door and eat an apple. And afterwards, I would have a headache. My stomach felt like full and I felt hungry at the same time. And kind of like, just not good. So I was like, man, I am sensitive to apples. Like, that's the most. Apple a day keeps the doctor away. Like, that stinks. But I did take them away and I did notice a difference. Then I tried, I did the gluten thing. I did gluten-free because my mom's gluten-free, and I knew that gluten is technically inflammatory, so no more ramen noodles. That was a bummer. But that did kind of help because honestly, every night I would not be able to sleep because my stomach was full of ramen noodles. And so that helped a little bit. And then I was really convinced that dairy did not affect me because I craved it all the time, especially cheese. I ate cheese every single day, and I always had a stock of cheese in my little college fridge. And but as we would later find out, that was not true. So then I came home from college, and I remember suddenly craving eggs, and I would have an egg in every meal. Like for breakfast I would have eggs, and then for lunch I would put an egg on my sandwich, and then for dinner I would like fry up an egg and just put it on top of whatever we were having. And I was just like eating eggs like no tomorrow. And one day I started to have a lot of like GI issues, and one day I was like, maybe I should try the egg, because I think I heard a podcast about it or something. People are sensitive to eggs, I guess. So I took out the eggs and I felt better. And then I did eat an egg and then I felt worse. So I was like, darn it, it was the eggs. So that was weird because eggs definitely did not affect me just a year before, because I was pretty diligent about journaling how I was feeling after each of these foods. And eggs all of a sudden were bothering me, so that was a bummer. So I was like, well, let me take this seriously. I'm going to do the AIP diet, the autoimmune protocol diet, where you just kind of take out all the things that cause most people issues with some kind of immune condition, and see how it went. So it was so hard, let me tell you. It was terrible. I was hungry all the time and cooking all the time, and I would cook and cook and cook and eat and eat and eat, and then cook again and then eat again, and I was still like craving food and so hungry. If you can relate and you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and yeah, I appreciate it. Anyways, so I was struggling. On the AIP diet, I did learn that I was sensitive to what was called nightshades, which I'd never heard of before. But basically, it's like tomatoes, potatoes, and peppers. Those are all the ones that I would eat anyway. So I took them out, and I didn't really notice a difference until I added them back in. And I was like, ooh. I took a Benadryl, and I could barely, I was so tired, I couldn't barely do my job. I was at work, and I ate some like sausage and peppers for lunch, and it was just like, all my energy was just sapped right out of me. I was like, oh my goodness, this is the reason. So I took those out, but then I was still having issues. So I took out all these foods, like more and more foods were taken out. And in the end, I just kept becoming sensitive to one more food. Why? And I couldn't understand why. But then I learned why. I read this book, Gut and Psychology Syndrome by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. And this changed my life because I realized that the problem wasn't the food. The food wasn't evil. Well, it was probably full of, pesticides and chemicals because I wasn't necessarily eating organic. But it wasn't fully the food's fault. It was the fault of my gut was unhealthy and was unable to digest these foods. And I had leaky gut. So no matter what I ate, if I ate one thing enough times and it floated into my bloodstream undigested, then it would cause issues. And so anything that I ate would eventually cause issues. So what I loved about this book is that it's not about just taking away all the offenders eternally forever. But it's all about focusing on what we can add into our diet to feed our microbiome and feed our gut lining and restore it so that it's got all these tight junctions and there's nothing leaking through there, so that eventually you can reintroduce some of these foods and it doesn't affect you anymore. So now I can have tomato sauce, I feel great. I can eat sausage and peppers and I feel energized. I can eat anything. So if you're really tired all the time or have some weird symptoms that there's no explanation for, maybe it's food. And if you already know you have food intolerances and you feel doomed that you just have to live with it forever and never eat ice cream and never eat pizza ever, there's hope. I ate a pizza just the other day. It actually came from my farmer, from some sourdough crust and some homegrown tomatoes and some pastured pork sausage, and it was really good, and raw milk cheese. But anyway, I eat ice cream and pizza now and I feel awesome. And you can too. So if you want to learn more about this or you want someone to walk through the GAPS protocol with you, I would be happy to work with you as a nurse and a GAPS practitioner. Dr. Tasha came out with a new book, Gut and Physiology Syndrome, which talks about not just the mental and the brain neurological symptoms, but also physical symptoms. Really amazing book. So anyway, read this book, man. It'll change your life. And hit subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. There's more where that came from.